Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I am doing Comic Uno episode 233, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show, so let's get started. I go least favorite to pick of the week. So I had 20 books this week. That's an average amount for me, so let's get started. Number 20 this week is The Beauty, issue 20, which I think I am, and ironically, it's also 20, which I think I am going to drop. I've been reading this for a while, but especially with this issue, because it's been jumping from so many different characters, I just don't know what direction the series is going, and it's a bit too much of a slow burn for me. So I think I will drop this one, and that was number 20, so that was my least favorite. Moving on to number 19, which is Wonder Woman issue 42. Love these covers, but the Darkseid storyline has been going on for way too long. And also, that opening was kind of jarring to me, that Jason comes back and Wonder Woman's like, you know, what happened? And Jason's like, I don't know, like, it's all a blur to me. And I felt like that was just kind of lazy on that part. I felt like it was just there because there wasn't any story, and I wanted to know what happened to Jason. It felt a little bit too convenient to me. So, I did like the artwork, though. I do like Jason and Wonder Woman working together. I enjoyed those aspects, but still, again, the Darkseid stuff a bit slow, and that opener could have been better. So, gonna give this one 3 stars, and that is number 19. Moving on to number 18, which is Xena, the Warrior Princess, issue 2. I love the artwork for this, so really expressive here. I think it works for kind of the medieval magic feel we get with Xena. And also it's very new reader friendly. I've never watched Xena before, but I understand what's going on in the story. But it is a bit of a slow burn, and I could see for people who have seen the show what new stuff is being introduced here. I don't know. I do like Gabriella and Xena's friendship, and I hope that or relationship, we'll see, but I hope that's something that's explored more and focused on more as the series goes on, because again, this was a bit of a slower burn for me here, compared to the first issue that kind of just focused on Gabriella meeting Xena for the first time. So I'm going to give that one 3 stars, and that is number 18. We are moving on to number 17, which is Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, issue 20 we're up to. This is going to be ending soon, and I think that kind of takes me out of this story because we don't get a lot of the Birds of Prey. It's more about Helena dealing with her mother's storyline, which I didn't really like in the first place, so seeing that continued, I'm like, oh, this is kind of the slower story. I definitely like the Oracle stuff a little bit more, so for me, it's just a story that I don't know if it needed to be continued, and I want to see more of the Birds of Prey being the Birds of Prey as the series is ending. So I gave this one 3 stars. Artwork is, you know, same we've been getting, so pretty solid overall, and you kind of get used to it as the series goes on, so gonna give that 3 stars. Now, moving on to the next one, which is number 16, and that goes to Titans, issue 21, and this just doesn't feel as original as it could be. You know, how many times have we seen the Titans break up? How many times have we seen Roy go down this, you know, area for him and say, no, I don't need the Titans. So it just didn't really feel fresh at all, and I do miss the Titans being together. I think the last issue did a good job because it was bringing back Cheshire and Roy, but you don't get to see that as much. It's more Roy interacting with his friends saying, oh, I don't need you, I'm gonna push you away, and obviously him being controlled in that way. So, and also artwork is solid overall. It's kind of cartoony, I guess, but it's expressive enough. Powers work well, so overall I'm going to give this 3 stars. Just wasn't so impressed with it again. Want a little more originality with the series. So, moving on to number 15, this is a new title. I think it's a mini-series. The New Mutants, Dead Souls, issue 1. I will give a disclaimer, I've never really read the New Mutants, just part of the X-Men I never really got into, but I always enjoyed Ileana, so I picked this one up. And overall, I like the team's dynamic, but I will say I think people who really enjoy New Mutants are gonna like this more. It definitely feels more targeted to the hardcore New Mutants fan. And also looks like they're trying to bring the horror aspect that the movie has. So it definitely seems like it's trying to be like the movie a bit too much in a way. Because that's the aspect I didn't like, was the whole Dead Soul stuff and the horror aspect of it. But I like the team, and that gave me enough for the next issue. Now, going into the art, definitely acquired taste. I like the darkness of it, but some of the styles for the characters I didn't like. I don't love how short Ileana's bangs are. I know that's such a weird comment, but it just looked weird to me. I don't know, it just took me off, her bangs being so short. I know that's a style, I've seen it before, but it doesn't work for Ileana. But yeah, the darkness works well, I guess, for the storyline of the book, but it just wasn't my acquired taste. But I will pick up the next issue because the team definitely had enough of a dynamic that I want to see what happens next. Moving on to number 14, and I gave that 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 14, which is Sideways, issue 2 we're up to. And the artwork is kind of off for me here. It's some smudgy at times, especially in the action scenes. But what I like is the cast that this series is building. I like our main character's friend. I like his mother and how that's all connected. And the last ending villain felt a little generic, and the previous villain kind of felt generic too. That's trying to bring action just because, oh, we don't have enough action in this book, let's have some more action. So I kind of wish there was a story building with these other characters a bit more, but what really hooks me is the main characters and, again, his interaction with his primary supporting cast. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. Definitely one of the new Age of Heroes books I'll be continuing to get, which I think is the only one I'm picking up right now and am interested in. Alright, moving on to number 13. This would have been higher if I had some complaints about the ending, but Action Comics issue 999. Action Comics, I love this cover, but Action Comics, I really like the Sam and Lois scenes. I enjoy the whole father-daughter conversation and hearing their different point of views. But the way it ends is so quick. It's just like, oh, well, I'm walking away. I don't agree with my daughter. And then, like, Clark says a sentence, and he said, you know what? You're right. I'm going to reconnect to the family. It just felt so quick and convenient. It felt so rushed to me. I did not like that ending. And then also the Superman stuff felt so out of place to me. And the only part I guess I liked is that they mentioned one of the things he did, which is like get crystals out of whatever, meteor. And it's like, oh, Superman saved the day again. And I enjoyed that they connected that, but then you go to Cyborg Superman and all the Mr. Oz stuff. It just did not connect once again to the Lois and Sam story, just like the Booster Gold stuff. It just kind of feels shoehorned in at the moments in need. It just feels like, oh, well, we need to fill up more pages. I guess we'll throw in Superman, because this is kind of his book. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. I definitely had enjoyment with parts here, especially, again, the different opinions Sam and Lois had, but the ending was way too convenient, and they tried to stick Superman in here a little bit too much. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. I did really like the artwork too, though. I like the style the most for Action Comics. Some really nice dark complexion for, or, you know, dark inking for the artwork. Really like the detail here. So enjoyed the art there. So I gave that 3.5 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, this is a bit higher than usual, and that is Avengers issue 684. I liked the return for Hulk overall, I guess. I kind of want to be a little bit more emotionally moved, but I love the artwork, very solid artwork, and finally we find out who Voyager is. She's connected to the Grand Master. I thought that was a really good reveal, like that panel. But none of it kind of mixes well. It's like, alright, Hulk has returned, we're also telling this Voyager story, and that's my biggest problem with this event so far, is that they're trying to fit too many things in, but at the same time, it's so padded, it feels like nothing's happening. And it took way too long for this Voyager reveal. I'm already like, oh, am I really that interested in this arc? I kind of wish this happened earlier, or at least that the audience knew this before the Avengers did. So I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars. Again, I thought this was an improvement, but still in a story structure way, it could have been better. Now moving on to number 11, which is Marvel 2-in-1 Thing and the Human Torch, which is just fun, but at the same time it's just like them going into this generic event, it felt like, where they go to this alternate world. She-Hulk and Wolverine, they're part of S.H.I.E.L.D. pretty much, and they think that the Human Torch and the Thing are Skrulls. They meet this Mr. Fantastic, they see, oh, this is not our Reed. And in a Secret Wars / way, Doctor Doom, like, is taking over the world. So it just seems like a mesh of all these different Marvel events they've had, which I guess is kind of part of the joke, but at the same time, I'm like, alright, kind of want to stay away from that. But overall, it's a lot of fun. I like the character interactions, and artwork is just gorgeous, even though it has changed. Again, it's a bit more cartoonier than Jim Chung's artwork, but love the detail here. Just beautiful artwork. And the new costumes are interesting. It's kind of like they're like driving race cars. But I enjoyed the story for the most part, so I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 10, which is Secret Weapons Owen story, issue 0. Really been enjoying these. Love the Nikki story. And this one was pretty fun too. I don't know if it was as good as Nikki's. I felt like I really got into her character with that one, but here what I did like is once again playing with the structure. Really enjoyed how with the Nikki one shot, it's every day we saw how her life was changing. Here we get to see sales. So Owen is trying to make money with his abilities, and he does not know how to control his abilities. So you know, somebody needs, let's say, jewelry, he makes a vacuum cleaner. He shakes someone's hand, you know, let's say a bird pops up, you know? So by the end of like every chapter, in a way, it shows how much money he made. And he just seems like a cool guy either way. The artwork for me had a few too many lines on the faces here that I felt like if they took that out, it would have been a cleaner art style. But really like the purples being used, like the coloring a lot. And again, the structure of, oh, this is what they sold, you know, what Owen sold. He gave this as a gift, so it was no money. So I enjoyed that and the connection in Nikki's story. You see how they kind of weave together. So overall, I gave this one 3.5 stars and really looking forward to seeing if we'll get more Secret Weapons, because I've been really enjoying that story. Alright, moving on. Finally, this book is a lot higher than it usually is, and that is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, issue 301. We get an art change, which feels a bit similar to the artwork of Spider-Woman, if you read that, the last volume of Spider-Woman. And even the coloring reminds me of that, so I don't know if it is the same colorist or not, but I like this story. It's time traveling back to Amazing Fantasy, the beginning of Spider-Man's origin, and we get to see interactions between Teresa and Nick Fury. That was fun. Seeing finally if Teresa actually is the sister of Peter Parker or not. We're gonna unravel that. And even J. Jonah Jameson interacting with J. Jonah Jameson, saying, hey, you know the whole Spider-Man thing, you might want to let go of it. I will say the reason this isn't higher is the dialogue is still very heavy, and I feel like it's so wordy when it doesn't have to be, so I feel like that could shorten a bit, and that would make me enjoy the comic a bit more. It's very dialogue heavy, but overall the story is going in a better direction and it is fun. So I give this 3.5 stars, and that is number 9. So moving on to number 8, which is a Red 5 book, which I believe is on Comixology fully, but it's coming out printed through Diamond now, and I'm gonna try following the printed from Diamond, that way I can actually review this month after month. It's a 4-issue miniseries, but it's A Fractured Mind issue 1, and this looks totally up my alley, where this girl, she gets kidnapped by the serial killer, and we get to see these two detectives are trying to find out what happened, and by the end, the twist is that she's like stuck in her mind, and she starts killing one of the nurses. So you're wondering, like, who is controlling her? What happened to her? The artwork, I keep saying this, it's kind of cartoonier than I thought it would be for the, you know, the type of story it's telling. There's also weird angles, like where I feel like the face could have more details, but other than that, it's a solid book, and that ending really hooked me to want to read more. So I gave that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, a new Young Animal book, Turney Girl, issue 1. I was not following the backup stories that was in Milk Wars, because I didn't read Milk Wars, but I didn't feel like I missed a beat. I understood the character, so it's, you know, new reader friendly if you weren't reading Milk Wars. But this issue, or the story was really interesting. It's a girl dealing with having these, you know, abilities that make her into something else, and she's having a hard time controlling them and just looking like herself, and definitely depressed and because she can't die and she wants to die. So it's a really interesting psychological story, and by the end she ends up teaming up with this you know, agency, and by the end she said, but promise me I die in the end. So really dark storyline, but interesting. Definitely got me hooked onto the character. Artwork, definitely a different type of style. But yeah, overall I gave this 3.5 stars. Definitely gave me enough to want to pick up the next issue. Now moving on to number 6, which is Detective Comics issue 976. Glad to see this so high. Honestly, would have been higher if the Batwoman stuff weren't in it, which is weird because I love the Kate stuff last issue. But here it just kind of felt shoehorned in, saying, oh, what's Kate up to? It just wasn't as interesting as the Cassandra stuff. I think Cassandra's such an underrated character, and it's really proven here, where we get to see her with Leslie Thompson, where she's having this, you know, therapy session, and she describes that she doesn't feel like she's a good person. And I love the idea of her teaming up with Clayface for the last time. It was the last time she felt happy. And she connects to these kids. These kids were getting hurt, and she connects with them because she never really had a childhood, so she definitely still, in some ways, acts like a child because she never had her childhood. So very, you know, deep stuff here, and I just love that conversation. And, you know, Cassandra feeling lost. She feels like, well, I've done bad things. Is Batman gonna hurt me? And Batman's trying to, you know, wrap his head around, what do I do to help Cassandra? But what was also really interesting is Tim being so motivated to have this team. And I love that Batman actually does listen to Batgirl and say, no, I did it for the wrong reasons. She was right. And Tim's like, no, she wasn't right. And he's like, she was right. So I enjoyed that. As a Batgirl fan, I enjoyed Batman saying she was right. But I really enjoyed those scenes that Batman actually does admit that he's wrong, but Tim is just so driven to be right. And we're seeing that by the end of the issue too. Overall, very solid story. Artwork, a bit darker than we usually get. I feel like facial expressions have been more detailed in previous issues because we do get to see kind of that dark shading over the faces. But I think it works for kind of the darker storyline. We do see like Leslie's face is kind of oddly proportioned at times. But overall, pretty solid artwork. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Vampironica, issue 1. Been so excited for this book, and I thought this was a really solid start. We get to see the beginning, totally vampire Veronica. But then, well, the rest of the issue, you kind of find out, alright, how did this happen? I wasn't extremely happy that Betty and Archie were kind of enemies to Veronica, that they were like sneaking around dating while without Veronica knowing, and it seemed like Veronica and Archie were still dating. So I feel like we've grown past that drama of Archie, but we get a little of that here. But most of it is Veronica finding out that she got bit by a vampire, and she's running away. It's the origin story of her, and then she finds out that she is a vampire when she sees blood, and she's like, oh god, what do I do? It's a little bit of a slow burn with the origins, which is why it's a little lower, but I love this world. The artwork is so good. I love the reds. I just love everything about it, and also kind of has a Buffy style by the beginning. It's like if Buffy was a vampire. That is exactly what this story is. I mean, look at these beautiful blues and reds, just perfect artwork here, and I can't wait to read more. So, pretty solid start, and I think this book is just going to get even better as we go along. So I gave that 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Betrothed, issue 1, a book I was really looking forward to, and honestly, it didn't disappoint me. I love this opener where we get to see our female lead punches the guy in the face and says, "This is not a Romeo and Juliet story." And we see that she's kind of changing as a person once they meet. You know, she's perfect A student. She does not hit people. But here, because they meet each other, they're starting to make out and, you know, randomly. So you see something's up because they're next to each other. And really quickly, we learn exactly who they are. One is science connected, was born through science. The other one was born through magic, and now they have to, like, fight a war by the end. So it's a quick introduction to these characters. We are very much warped into that world quickly. I don't know how I will feel about that going on, because I do like the kind of the high school setting and them balancing that life. It looks like they're going to go into the fantasy setting very quickly. But I like these characters. I thought, again, the way it was told, the narration, I really liked. The transitions were really well here. And just the inner monologue. Artwork was good too here. Very bright, as you can see, style. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars, and that is number 4. Alright, so we're moving on to number 3. A book, honestly, I picked on whim. I wasn't originally going to pick it up. But Infidel, issue 1. Really enjoyed this. So we get to see this Muslim woman kind of getting used to a new place that she's living at. She lives with her, I guess, mother-in-law and her husband, and you know, she's getting used to adjusting that she's a mother because she's a stepmother to her husband's child. And throughout the book, you get little pieces of racism and, you know, phobia. And it's our main character wanting to think the best of this mother is like, no, you know, that's not true. And I really like the small moments. It's not so obvious, but as you read it, it's like, okay, you see the small moments of her, you know, having her bag tightly around her when she's on the train. So really enjoyed that. And then throughout you have this couple, I guess, or these people that died where they lived. So now this monster is following her and she's having these bad dreams. You want to see how this is all connected. Really great introduction to our main lead. Interesting world. Artwork is so good. Love the complexity of this. Just really was hooked by this story. So Infidel issue 1 gets 4.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2. Which is Mr. Miracle issue 7. Just a joy to read. I love seeing the birth of Mr. Miracle and Big Barda's child in that process of how the baby's born, and you wonder, oh, what's gonna happen, because this is a new god, you know, baby, and you really see that prominent. And what I love about Mr. Miracle is how it's, yes, it's a story about gods, but it's grounded in reality. We saw that when they're fighting through, you know, soldiers in the last issue, and they're talking about home decoration, and here it's these otherworldly, godlike things, scenarios that they come from, but they're just having a baby. You know, that's what the story's about. The most human thing you could do. So, really cool story. Love these characters. Just love the dialogue and pacing that Tom King has for this book, and his collaboration with Jared's, which is just gorgeous. The 9-panel grid just works so well here. So giving this 4.5 stars. Just been loving Mr. Miracle, especially as it goes along. I think it gets better and better. Alright, moving on to number 1. All New Wolverine, issue 32. This is once again a one-shot. I was surprised by that. But a really well done epilogue one-shot, especially now that we know Tom Taylor is leaving the series, and we're gonna have X-23 series coming up soon. So we're really excited to see Old Lady Laura. I don't know if they're actually calling her that, but that's gonna be the next arc. So this was a really good way to kind of give a farewell to Tom Taylor, and really well done Orphan X story arc. And man, that opening scene where we get to see the two girls, you're wondering, oh, who is this girl? And then Laura, how she wakes up, how this girl wakes up. And you find out it's the daughter of someone she killed while she was obviously an experiment. And then you see that she was part of Orphan X, and they're working together to kill the person actually who did technically kill her father. And, you know, the scenario's them, like, in Hawaiian shirts doing it. So there's definitely a dose of comedy that Tom Taylor does great here. But then that emotion, again, that transition from those panels were just so powerful. And then, again, you have this kind of powerful slash comedic ending where Laura said, like, as a passing by, oh, well, bring your Nazi boots, that way you could stamp on him in the end. And that's exactly what they do. I love that angle there. So really fun issue, but really powerful issue at the same time. And like I said, a good conclusion to Orphan X, which I thought was the best arc from the Wolverine series, which has been just a pleasure to read and see how Laura has grown as a character and how she respects herself as a person, which has obviously been very important for her journey becoming Wolverine. So really enjoyed this one. Excited to see that last arc as well. This is Comic Inno. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.